Good day. I am Liesl Pretorius, Head of Legal with Freedom of Religion South Africa. And I am joined by my colleague, our Executive Director, Michael Swain. This week, we will be discussing the Interfaith Forum, also known as the IF20, which took place in Cape Town, South Africa last week. It was a tremendous privilege to attend this exciting event, which was joined by over 350 delegates from all over the world to discuss issues that are important to persons of faith and faith communities, and with a view to possibly influencing the political G20. So, to give us a bit more of an in-depth overview to discuss what this is about, Michael, could you please tell us more about the IF20? What is it? What does it do? And why was it held in Cape Town this year?
Yeah, the IF20 is, I would say, without doubt, one of the most significant interreligious, interfaith meetings that takes place in the world. I say interreligious because obviously we're not talking about sort of ecumenical interfaith. It's not like what do faiths have in common, but it does have a very significant impact in terms of what are faiths doing together about common problems. So to give a little bit of background, as viewers may know, the G20 is a major global political meeting, and it takes place every year. It's basically the 20 most sort of populous and economically powerful nations, plus the European Union, plus the African Union. So it's a very significant geopolitical event. And every year, the presidency transfers from whichever nation it is to the next. And this year, it is South Africa's turn. Last year, it was Brazil. Next year, it's going to be the United States of America. And of course, because of the significance of this event, and because obviously there's so much focus and attention on it, and there's a significant opportunity to really sort of join hands between different communities, so to speak, in the process, the IF20, or the Interfaith 20, G20 Interfaith Forum, takes place and has taken place for the past 10 years. And this year it was in Cape Town. And the benefit which we experienced from that was because I've been able to build some international relationships over the past 10 years. I was invited last year to Brazil, to the IF20 that was there, and then was appointed as the vice chair of the local organizing team. So that meant that we, FOR SA, had a wonderful opportunity to obviously shape to a significant extent what the program was going to be, how it was going to be staged and held, to work with obviously some fantastic other team members. It had some intergovernmental dimensions, but it was a very significant event. It took place a couple of weeks ago now in Cape Town, and it was, I think, a great success. So, as you say, over 350 people from all over the world came, and it was a really multifaceted meeting.
Yes, I think it was absolutely wonderful to be in the same room with so many people of diverse faiths and to have these conversations about how we can work together. And the relational aspect of it is absolutely key. I think to address these issues faced by faith communities, I think that is one of the perhaps the outstanding values, or at least one of the very high significant values of this opportunity. Michael, you've touched on a bit how we became involved, but do you want to just explain in a bit more detail the why? Why did we, as an organization based in South Africa, focused on freedom of religion in South Africa, become involved in such a global event as the IF20? It has been called, the premier interfaith, or one of the premier interfaith events in the world. What is FOR SA as a legal advocacy organization hoping to achieve through this involvement?
Well, one of the interesting trends and developments that we've seen in the world, particularly amongst so-called Western democracies, is the rise of secularism. Many Western nations now see themselves as secular. And if that was simply that they were completely neutral, then that would be one thing. But unfortunately, secular and secularism have kind of merged together. And what effectively that means is that increasingly these secular governments are pushing the voices of the faith communities to the peripheral. And one of the things that 4SA has long stood for and worked towards is we need to get involved more and more in the policy making levels. Because if you just wait until policy is formulated, which then turns into laws or regulations, which then may be adverse to you, and now you're fighting a challenge, literally, it's as if the enemies are at the gates. Whereas if you can get involved at the policy-making dimension, then of course you can fight the battle 100 miles from the gates, and if you need to, you can gradually retreat and keep fighting again. But the policy-making is the key thing. And of course, the IF20 is a very key policy-making opportunity because it deals with a plethora of different issues where the faith communities are involved. I mean, literally everything from climate change through the debt relief, through poverty, migration, disaster management, and of course, very significantly, family, which is an area where we have been very involved, and religious freedom, generally speaking. And the consequence of this meeting, the IF20, is that the outputs from it, the policies, the guidelines, the best thinking, if you like, maybe best practice of the faith communities is then packaged and bundled and then sent forward into the G20 geopolitical meetings. And so that's where you have the handshake, as I was explaining earlier, between the sort of faith communities, the views, the expertise in many instances, certainly the unique and vital perspectives of the faith communities. That's where that transition, that's where that transfer, that's where that handshake takes place. So yes, very important, we believe, to have been involved in this and to, for that matter, to stay involved with it going forward.
Yes, certainly. And I think just want to emphasize the importance of the voice of religious communities and religious leaders. I mean, I don't have the exact percentage, but a significant portion of the people in the world are religious people. And if you want true inclusion, if you want true social cohesion and participation and buy-in, you need to include the views of these different religious communities that represent different faith groups. And it's such a rich heritage. Even at a conference or a summit that was so diverse, you could see common values, and even theologically, people might disagree, and there might be other points of disagreement. There are common values that people share and can stand upon and reach consensus to build proper policies that can make a deal of difference in the world for good. So I think that's very important. You mentioned some of the topics that were covered by the summit, poverty and climate change, human trafficking, all very important topics that affect people across the globe, and important to have the religious voice in those topics. But if we look at freedom of religion specifically, what topics concerning freedom of religion were discussed at the summit?
Well, there were two main topics, the one of which actually was very much related to how the faith communities are able to join together and align around common causes. As you said correctly, we may disagree with each other theologically, but there are areas where we have significant common ground. And of course, if faith communities can begin to work together, can begin to build together, even to oppose or even support certain issues, then that becomes a very powerful and a very effective voice. That's where I think the interfaith voice becomes very significant and important. And some of the issues that we've obviously worked on in this country, where there's common cause, has been, for example, to support and uphold parental rights, particularly in the area of education. Because no matter what faith you are, no matter what belief you may hold, all faiths would agree that as a parent, you must have, and you must certainly fight for, if you need to, your inalienable right to educate your own child according to your faith and your views and your values. Another one, of course, has been in the whole area of freedom of expression. Faiths, and again, an absolute essential fundamental aspect of freedom of religion is that you should be able to express your faith. And that doesn't mean just praying silently in the basis of your own home or in your church building or your mosque. It means that you should be able to live out your faith, to express your faith freely, to pass it on, even to proselytize, to certainly pass it on to your children. And so that was one of the topics which was really emphasizing and highlighting that. And the, of course, added benefit of it is that unfortunately one of the, let's say, the downsides of faith communities when they don't get on is that you get conflict between people of different faiths. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that, particularly in our African context. But of course, again, where you can encourage faith communities from diverse backgrounds to actually work together on things where they have a common cause, immediately you've built that relational bridge between leaders, often at a very senior level. And of course, then the likelihood of them literally devolving into conflict, or the probability of them being able to intervene where conflict might be, a concern, is obviously heightened. And so therefore the peace building dimension of the Interfaith Forum was emphasized. That was the one topic. And then the second topic, of course, was something which we are very engaged in, which is the push within the African context to introduce by states systems of state regulation of religion, which is obviously for us an existential threat to freedom of religion. Because if the state can control, if you like, if the state can grant you a license so that you can be a religious practitioner or form a religious organization, that's no longer a right. That then becomes a privilege. It's like you get a license to drive a car, but if you break the traffic regulations, then that license can be taken away from you. That is not a right. That is a privilege. And of course, freedom of religion is an absolute foundational right. And so we're seeing threats in Ethiopia, we're seeing threats in Kenya, in Uganda, in Namibia, and of course very much here in South Africa, where the CRL is once again, and almost incomprehensibly, because we've elevated and discussed this at great length in the 2016-2019 period, they're again pushing for state regulation of religion. And so that was a big topic. And again, we had people from different countries in Africa also expressing and explaining what's happening in their contexts. And it is something which is being contested all over Africa. But it is seemingly a big push. And in some countries, it seems to be that the countries are even collaborating together to almost form some sort of almost some, let's say, consistent approach to it, which again is very concerning. So that was the second topic. But great subject matters. We had experts from the UK, from the US, from Uganda, from Ethiopia, from Kenya. And so we had very good discussions on these topics, and a lot of alignment and a lot of agreement and commonality.
Yes, I think it was very helpful to have, in addition to the plenary sessions where everybody is in the plenary, also to have these breakaway discussion groups that delve into topics a bit more in detail, allow for more Q&A, interaction with these panels. I myself was involved in a panel on freedom of expression, basically protecting that freedom of expression, hate speech, more in the context of social media and how it affects religious communities, and how religious communities affect. Interesting panel also on children's rights, which is a very important topic, very topical topic. And if viewers are interested in this or any other information about the summit, there is a website. You just Google G20. The website will come up. It's www.g20interfaith.org. And I believe, if I understand correctly, the videos of these different sessions will eventually be uploaded also on the website. So then you can check it out on any topic that interests you particularly. So, Michael, the summit of this year is done. And you mentioned before that the next summit will be held in the US. So how will FOR SA continue to be involved in this important event?
Well, I think because we were able to be, I would say, helpful to the organizing committee this year, including giving, I think, some very good guidance, advice, helpful tips for how to improve, I will be able to have input into next year's event as well. And I'm actually going to be going to the US in October, and there are going to be some discussions around how could we take this to the next level, obviously in anticipation of next year's conference in the USA, which I'm sure will be a very big and significant event, simply because it's in the USA. So yeah, very great opportunity for us, I think, to be involved, to really start to sort of like shape not only how the conference takes place, but even how the different topics are framed up and the things that are really focused on and debated. As you say, getting involved at the policy level, getting involved at the shaping stage, that is something that we have long desired to do. And this seems to be a great opportunity that's being opened for us.
Yes, we are certainly excited about being involved in this further and speaking into decisions that can influence policy on the way forward. If freedom of religion and related topics, these sorts of issues that interest you, you are welcome to visit our webpage. The address is www.forsa.org.za. There you will have more information. You'll get overviews of the type of matters that we are involved in. For example, in the sliding banner at the top, there's this dedicated webpage focusing on state regulation of religion. There's one focusing on the EC toolkit, which is a parent you might be interested in because it's a toolkit aimed at children 0 to 9 years. So definitely check that out. And if you want to stay up to date on our website, you can subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get alerts, updates, etc. And we are also on social media. We are on Facebook. You can like and follow our page, and we are also on YouTube because you could subscribe to our channel, and we regularly post interviews such as this and maybe some short snippets when there's an important update as well on our YouTube. So that way you will keep informed about what's going on, what is affecting your rights to freedom of religion. Also importantly, if there is something happening, what can you do to participate in the lawmaking process so you can also exercise your democratic right to influence law and policy. But we hope that you've enjoyed this interview, and thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Good day. This is Nobukosi Zulu, legal advisor at FOR SA. Remember to like and share this video and then click on the subscribe button to make sure you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.